Hi everyone. In this session, we are going to talk about block level elements and inline elements in HTML. Let's review a moment. In our previous lessons, we learned some typography tags like the h1 tag, the p tag, and the div tag. We also came across the import tag, although we haven't gone over its usage yet. It's a self-closing tag. Additionally, we briefly introduced the span tag in the last lesson. Let's go ahead and write these tags down. To make our explanation easier, let's duplicate each of these tags. By the way, here's another quick tip for using VS Code. If you press Shift, Alt, and then press the down arrow key, you can duplicate the current line. This shortcut is super handy. Okay, let's duplicate each tag and then open them in the browser. Once you open the file, take a close look at the red box around these tags. You'll notice one thing they have in common. Each tag takes up the entire line. These types of elements are called block level elements. On the other hand, elements like import and span don't take up the entire line. These are called inline elements, meaning they can coexist with other elements on the same line. Let's add comments to them. Block level elements take up an entire line. Inline elements do not take up an entire line. Okay, by the way, here's a quick note about comments. In HTML, comments are used to insert notes or explanations within the code that are not displayed in the browser. In VS Code, you can press Ctrl / to quickly add a comment. Then write your content within the comment symbols. Now, let's continue discussing block level and inline elements. Have you noticed that all the typography tags we've learned so far are block level elements? Here's an important point to keep in mind. At this stage of learning HTML, all you need to remember is that block level elements take up an entire line, while inline elements do not. Later, when we study CSS, we will discover more differences between them. Moreover, there are some special inline elements. For example, the import element we just discussed is a bit unique. In fact, by that time, we will classify import under a completely new category. Now, let's comment out the content we have written so far and collapse it to keep things neat and tidy. Moving on, let me introduce a few rules. Rule 1. Block level elements can contain both block level elements and inline elements. Almost anything can go inside them. But notice I said almost. For example, if I create a div, which is a block level element, I can place another block level element like h1 inside it. I can also add an inline element like import. This is totally valid. Let's open this in browser. Press F12 to inspect the elements, and hover your mouse over the code. you'll notice that the corresponding area on the web page is highlighted. This shows the area represented by the code you are hovering over. See, block level elements can indeed contain both block level and inline elements. Rule 2. Inline elements can contain other inline elements, but they cannot contain block level elements. For instance, if I create a span, it is an inline element. I can place another inline element like import or another span inside it. This works perfectly fine. But if I try to add a block level element like a div inside a span, things might look fine at first glance. However, let's test this. After adding the div, I'll add another span below it. When we save and refresh the browser, things go wrong. Hover over the first span tag, and you'll see the browser highlights all three lines, as if they all belong to the first span. This is because adding a block level element inside an inline element violates the rules, causing unexpected behavior. While this may not seem like a big deal now, it can lead to major problems when styling with CSS later. For example, if you try to adjust the height of the first span, it will affect all three lines. And debugging such issues can be a nightmare if you don't know this rule. Besides the Rule 1 and Rule 2, there are other special rules. For example, H1 to H6 cannot be nested inside each other. If you write an H1 tag and place an H2 inside it, the browser will automatically move the H2 outside the H1. Now you know why I said block level elements can contain almost anything. There are exceptions. Next, the p tag cannot contain block level elements. For example, if you write a p tag and place an h1 inside it, the browser will render the h1 correctly but will also add empty p tags before and after it. And that's it for today's session on block level and inline elements.